Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to Bhakti Sanga Japa conference call. Our speaker today is Her Grace Gopikita Mataji. She has a very impressive experience over 20 years teaching and training kids in Krishna consciousness. This has enabled her to grow more and more parents and kids in Krishna conscious umbrella with a unique hands-on approach. Her sincerity and dedication has driven her to take up the post of Regional Secretary for the ISKCON Ministry of Education. She is also the project manager of the annual Mayor's Event, Festival of Joy Rath Yatra, and vice president of the TKG Academy in Dallas, Texas, the first school established by ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. Having grown up amidst the bliss of Vaishnava traditions in America, her goal is to reach out to every family within America and beyond and help them explore the beautiful relationships and real happiness of being in Krishna consciousness. Her happy family includes her husband, His Grace Rupa Shumekar, also a second-generation devotee and a software engineer, who's also a second-generation devotee and a software engineer, a 17-year-old son, Raja, who is in his second year of college, and a 14-year-old Nitai, and a 14-year-old son Nitai, who is in the 10th grade. So thank you very much, Mataji, for your kind association and your time today morning. Mataji will be speaking on parenting teenagers. Thank you so much, Mataji. You can now take over the call. Before that, I request everybody to please be on mute because there is a lot of echo. And we'll have a lot of people joining as the class starts. So kindly please be on mute. And Mataji, you can please take over. Thank you very much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
All right, thank you so much. My humble obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpa tirubhascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhava Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you so much for allowing me to speak a few words to you about this extremely important topic. I think in parenting, when your child is newly born and you have to figure out how to navigate that first year or first 2 years, it can feel really overwhelming. At that time, when they're 1 year old and then 2 years old, and you think, oh, this is the worst it's going to get, and people tell you, don't worry, it'll get better. And then every single year, every stage of life brings its new set of challenges. But I can confidently say now, having been the mother of teenagers myself, that the teenage years are the most stressful and the most difficult in all of the entire journey of parenting. And so I'm hoping I can share some of the tips and advice that I had gotten and seen and witnessed from my own parents and how they had raised me in America in a completely contrary society than what they were used to, and from our scriptures, as well as from my own children, what I have learned from them. In preparing for this class, I've just been realizing how very much there is to know. So much information is out there on how to teenagers, and I will not, unfortunately, be able to cover all of the topics. Perhaps we need a few sessions in order to cover all of the topics. But I definitely can say, from the perspective of somebody who very consciously and very purposefully requested the Supreme Personality of Godhead to help me navigate the whole purpose behind parenting and the whole reason for having a child, and asked the Lord at that time when the children were not even yet in our stomach, that can you please help me understand why I'm journeying this, life of becoming a mother, and what is the purpose of it? That this journey of now navigating conversations with and relationships with my teenagers can become the most stressful because it shows an opposite result at times to what I thought would be at the teenage years. And so what I mean by that is, the spiritual scriptures, the Srimad Bhagavatam says, Na mocha yedya samuprityam jananena sasyat svajanona sasyat. Don't become a guru, don't become a father, don't become a mother, don't become even a relative to someone unless you can deliver them from the cycle of birth and death. And so we have these massively intense ideals that are placed on us as the purpose for what we are to do with our children. As parents, our responsibility is not only that they will get good grades and have good studies and stay focused in their values and know how to choose the right friends and have their room clean and eat properly and have proper extracurricular activities. And so the list is so long as to all the responsibilities we face with our children. And on top of it, now we want them to become Vaishnavas. It's our burning desire in our hearts that I want my child, because we have taken up the path of bhakti, that I want my child to become a Vaishnava. I want them to want to chant. I want them to want to hear. I want them to come to me and say, Mommy, come on, let's go to the temple. And so all of these stresses and fears and worries, and especially you see then at the teenage years, the opposite. An 8-year-old or a 9-year-old may automatically, very excitedly take the kartala and start doing, very confidently sit with you and do japa when you're all doing japa. Will read Srimad Bhagavatam and come up with the most amazing realizations. But then you start noticing that they start withering away inside. They start becoming reclusive. They start not being interested in the things that you're interested in. And they start, japa is a little boring, and I rather hang out with my friends or be on the computer. And they start making choices that you feel like you're having to fight them uphill. And every instruction that you used to give them, one little small instruction turns into a massive fight. You don't understand me. What's wrong? Or even if they may not verbally say that to you, they start staying away from you and hiding things from you more and more and more. And you're still trying to figure out how to navigate this, this entire journey. And so having been through that journey for a lesser or greater degree, some days are good, some days are bad. And now my older one is going to be 18 in a few months, and my younger one is already 15, will be 16 next year. It's actually been the most rewarding experience. If I look at the scary side of it, those fears that come up of, this is my last 4 years with my children, or 5 years, or 10 years with my children. If if you're living an American lifestyle, they consider 18 to be like, that's it, you're done with your parenting duties. Perhaps for those of us that are from India, it's like, okay, the kids will stay with the parents until at least 22 or 25. And so for those of us who know that this is kind of the end of our parenting journey, you have even more pressure that you need to give them everything that they need to learn now before they are thrown into the world, the real world. And so the instructions increase, the stress increases. So I hope all of you are relating. I don't see you all, so hopefully this is relating to some of you. And in order to also be able to hear from you, hear your challenges, I'm going to only cover a few topics. And then I would like to do a question and answer session and see what we can cover through the question. So the first thing is, I'm going to give you a little bit of background of what is psychologically the development of adolescence. Spiritually, each of your children have been chosen by the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to their past karma, and not only their past karma, but more importantly, according to their past hankerings for Krishna consciousness. In their past lives, they were unsuccessful yogis, and they had already developed a very deep relationship with the Lord. Especially if you are a practicing Vaishnava, that means that your child in his past life has developed a deep relationship of the Lord, and he felt that he was a failure. And because he felt to be, or she felt to be such a failure at the time of death, They wanted to make it back to the supreme abode, Vaikuntha or Golok Vrindavan, and they could not. And they were then again and found that they were in the womb of another human being. And this feeling of failure is very strong. It is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 5th canto that the living entity, the soul within the womb of the heart, within the womb of the parent, and through the heart starts feeling like, oh Krishna, have I failed? Have I taken birth again in a body full of blood, pus, bile, mucus, and air? Will I again have to undergo all of those sufferings, the 3 different types of sufferings? And what did I do wrong? And where did I go wrong? And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Kita janma hoy yatha tu adas, bahir mukha brahma janma nahi mor ash. Let me, no matter what, let me be born again in the home of your devotee. And this intense feeling, this intense desire is present in the child as he's being bitten by all of the worms, it is described, in the womb of the mother. And he's in a very, very cramped up space. And he knows that his condition of life can become full of suffering. And so he has this prayer while in the womb. And even before in the womb, he has this prayer that please allow me to be born as a Vaishnava in a Vaishnava family. So just from realization, you can see that then that child is born, and we put tilak on the child's head, and we chant Hare Krishna to the child, and the child feels very happy and confident. Okay, I am with devotees, and gradually we build up the child's spiritual identity up until they hit teenage years. And as they're getting 10 and 11 and 12 and then 13 and 14, we see that their spiritual identity is strong. In whichever ways we identify that they're so good at this, they have a natural affinity for Krishna, they're showing attraction to kirtan or japa, or even that they are very kind and gentle and qualified human beings. We, in our own hearts, we're able to see how many good qualities they have. And then they start becoming, a little bit more negative towards the way we may live our life or the instructions that we may be directing towards them. They may resist more. Clean your room. No, I don't want to. Why are you always telling me what to do? Okay, it's time to go to the temple. Well, I can't. I've got too much homework. They start resisting the usual life things that have been going on for the past 10 years. And on top of it, this is now a time for hormones. So any woman who is used to the monthly cycle knows that even no matter how much you try to control your mind, and no matter how much you try to stay completely focused on your tasks, you will feel the effects of hormones raging through you during your monthly cycle. No matter how much you try, and no matter how aware you are that this is my hormones now, I need to be respectful still, I need not freak out for no reason, still you have biological symptoms that affect you during your monthly, that particular PMS time. In the same way, a teenager is considered to now be bringing in all of these hormones, and there are options as to which hormones are affecting at what time and why those hormones are present in the teenager. They're starting to grow, their body is growing in rapid ways, hair growth, anatomical growth, physical growth, and that all that physical growth creates a realization that, oh, my identity is changing. And the neuroscientific studies even go further to prove that this time from age 12-ish, pre-adolescence, is about 17, 18, about 17, even it continues even into adulthood, as we've all experienced, those of us in our 20s and 30s, when we've been in different environments, we've had to, manage it and navigate our own identity in those different environments. But it's extremely drastically and dynamically shown during this period. And brain studies have shown, and you can do your research on this, that literally their identity-forming parts of their brain are being the neural pathways connected. Just like when a child is learning to write, when a child picks up the pencil and moves the pencil around in a circle and learns to form that one A and then the B, their neural pathways of handwriting are being cemented and the fine motor skills are being cemented. In the same way, during the teenage years, the physical parts of their abilities are already cemented. Now they're cementing their emotional, social parts as part of their identity. Who am I? Where do I belong? What are my strengths? What can I give to the world? How can I become unique and prominent and accepted and recognized? These things are being established at this time. Unique, prominent, accepted, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, is everybody there?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Okay, so I can continue. I don't know, there was some difficulty. I'm still on the line.
Yes, Mataji, you're on the line. Yes, I request everyone to just be on mute and not click on any other buttons. Thank you.
All right, Hare Krishna. All right, so I'm back. So this is the time where they're identifying how are they going to be unique, prominent, and recognized. And what are my talents? And so that's really what's going on in the internal level. You know, we're just going through, usually you go through the day-to-day and you don't really see all of these things. And hormones, what we have noticed is that that is the time where all of those dark qualities, one can say, or all of those struggles that the conditioned soul had in the previous life, all of the reasons for why they were not able to make it back to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, why they were not able to become fully transcendental, full spiritual consciousness and, you know, leave this material sphere and enter Goloka Vrindavan, there are all of those reasons that are coming up. All of the lust, the anger, the envy, the negative qualities, they're starting to come up stronger during the teenage years. It's when Krishna is bringing, as you're boiling the milk, they say, the solids, the protein solids rise to the top. Sorry, ghee, as your protein solids rise to the top, and you get the impurities, and you have to take off the impurities. So teenage years and when the hormones hit, and when there's a lot more chaos in the mind because of such hormones, that's all of the impurities are coming. That, okay, you know, as a parent you can see, this is when they're, you know, a lot more attached, perhaps, to certain things that they will not, you don't want them to become attached to. They're a lot more interested in certain things that you may not want them to be interested in, and you don't know how to navigate it because with it comes defiance and independence and talking back, and the submissive nature goes away. And so from a spiritual side, we can see that this is natural and this is normal. And from the material side, also psychologists tell us that this is natural and this is normal. So once we understand that biologically, psychologically, naturally, they're going through identity crises in the sense of trying to figure out who their identity is. They're going through spiritual changes. Okay, I'm a devotee of Krishna, but really, am I a devotee of Krishna? Do I want to do those activities that my parents are doing? And all of those questions are also natural, normal, and coming from a previous life. So spiritually and materially, it's very important to establish the background. Next, we move to, okay, now that we've established that background, why is it that they are we've established why it is that their identity is going through flux. How can we navigate it? So if you remember, when your child was, I would say maybe 8 months old, it could be different for each individual. Maybe some it's 10, maybe some it's 6. The child was always sitting with you in your lap. And then your little baby started to learn to crawl. And when your little baby started to turn away from you and learn to crawl, it was such a glorious, joyous thing. Oh, they're crawling away. Look, they're rocking back and forth. Their hands and their elbows and their knees. And they're going to take their first step. Look, they're going to take their first step. And then the second step and third step. And look, they took 5 steps and there's so much excitement and so much joy. And then suddenly within a few weeks or a few days, they're like off and away. And every time you sit down in a group environment or someone else's house, they're in your lap and suddenly they're crawling away. And then it starts getting annoying and, oh, I have to take everything out of their reach and I have to move things and they're going to be on everything. I pull the tablecloth down and all the things on the table and they climb up to the shelves and start knocking things off the shelves. They are establishing their independence. But the beauty about having a child who's 6 or 7 months old is when they start crawling away from the parents. We see it as such an exciting period. Wow, they're crawling away. They're gaining independence. They're going to learn how to walk soon. Look, they're walking away. And then we also have sometimes where it becomes fearful. You walk outside with a 2-year-old and you want to make sure that if the 2-year-old is holding your hand if you're near a busy street. Otherwise, it walks into the street and it causes that fear. But we never complain about the fact that the child is learning to crawl away or learning to walk away. Because we know that that's part of their development. Their physical development is to learn how to stand strong on their own 2 feet and navigate the world of walking. So it is with a teenager. With adolescents, they must separate from you. It is part of their imperative to become human beings, that they have to learn how to separate from you. So as a 2-year-old, a toddler has to say no and learns how to say no. And that's a whole other class on how you navigate no's with toddlers. But as that is an imperative for a child to establish his identity as a 2-year-old, it is the exact same hormonal process that's happening with your 13-year-old, depending on if they grew up a little early, matured a little early, 12-year-old versus 14 versus 16 versus 18-year-old, that they need to start establishing own boundaries, their own identity. And in order to establish their identity, it is automatic that they will separate from your identity. So something as simple as you need to make sure you get your laundry done before the yoga class tomorrow because you have no yoga shirts. Something as simple as that becomes an automatic, why do you always have to tell me what to do? I know I have to do my yoga shirt. Why can't you trust me to figure it out on my own? And then the response becomes, don't talk back to me. Talk respectfully to me. I'm just helping you. I'm just reminding you to do your laundry. And those of you who have teenagers probably can relate. These conversations happen more and more. So either you go into 2 modes as a parent, when they defy your instruction or they respond back strongly to your instruction because they don't feel like they want your instruction, either 2 things happen to the mom and dad. You end up giving less instruction, because now you're worried that if you give the instruction, the child's just going to fight with you and you're tired of fighting and you don't want to continuously have these negative interactions. Okay, let it go. Let it go. Okay, they're doing this that I'm not okay with, that's not good for our family or not proper. It's okay, just tolerate it and let it go. Or so that happens, either you become too permissive and lenient, or the other side happens, which is suddenly you become more domineering and more heavy and more strong, and you just force them to acquiesce and become submissive and shut them down. And so the first issue that happens in identity establishment with with the teenagers, is that they start automatically defying emotionally and mentally, whether it shows through internal, walking away from you as they walk upstairs, not coming home early enough, not sharing with you. Internally they show it through those movements, or externally through verbal fights and arguments. Their arguments get stronger. They're more intelligent now. And so when you're arguing with them, they're trying all these different ways to convince you that they're right and you're wrong. or that they're right and they want you to listen to what they're saying. And drastic for some teens, where if they are just shut down at home, they start creating two identities. One of the identity of I'm just going to shut up and put up in my house and just do what they say, but I'm not comfortable to trust and lean on them. And instead, I'm going to be a completely different person with my friends in my environment at school or with my friends or with other people. And I have so many friends, especially friends of those who are from immigrant families who have a completely different world back home. And their kids are navigating a completely different world here in American high schools and in an American environment, that they create two different identities. And those identities are separated for years and years and years, even up until their mid-20s or 30s. One identity of, oh, I'm going to pretend to be, or I'm going to try to be what my parents want me to be, and the other identity of, this is who I really am. And by the time I'm in college and I'm not with, I'm going to go just do whatever I want to do, and nobody knows about it. And growing up as an Indian girl with Indian parents in America, luckily we were in Gurukul and all of our friends were American, but even still, I don't think there was even one Indian friend that I had that was comfortable to tell their parents which boy they liked at age 20, what they actually did in college during their parties, how many parties they went to, how many friends they had that had boyfriends and girlfriends or had problems at home, and how many of these kids were able to comfortably sit with mom and dad and talk to mom and dad about these real-world issues that are faced by children in public schools. The trust that my parents, my father specifically, was able to develop with me, I did not see that anywhere else. I was not able to see that with any of my peers. It was like during the temple time, all the teenagers would go and sit and hang out, and all of the stuff that they would say, but it was always a complete understood statement that you don't tell mom and dad, you don't tell auntie and uncle, no one speaks of it. Even more recently, here in Dallas, friends who have had a relationship with somebody that they love, that they know they will marry, that they cannot tell their parents about because the parents have such a different, varied option of life. So the parents will become heavy, the parents will become judgmental, the parents will reject it because it's not from our society, or all of this starts happening in teenage years. And so you as a parent need to identify and need to figure out, what kind of parent do you want to be? Do you want to be the type of parent that assists the Supreme Personality of Godhead in bringing this child who has been brought into your home back to him and back to his abode? Or do you want to be the type of parent who is so stuck in your own way of parenting and that child is obedient and listening to you for the rest of his life, that it's about you and your ego, and that child is following your instructions no matter what his own personal desires or life or issues may be, that I am from a particular country and that country has particular standards and rules, and it doesn't matter what country you're in or who your friends are or what you're doing outside. With me, you are only to submit. Clearly, I'm giving two examples here. So that decision we're making here together, that we would like to help the spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead to help our children assist and navigate this world of America that they're in, and to be able to establish such a powerful relationship with our children of trust and love that they can speak to us with their difficulty, and we can be open and allow them to develop that identity during this time. So the first instruction that happens, and Mataji has said, and so I'm going to probably not make it through all 7 topics. I'll just next cover the 3rd topic and see where we go from there. The most important thing to do is to listen. It's really hard. It's a really hard thing to do, to listen when your child is defiant. We're so used to giving instructions. From age 0, our whole job has been to teach them from right and wrong. And our whole identity as moms and dads has been, if we don't teach them from right or wrong, they can literally perish if we don't hold that baby's head properly when we're trying to give them a bath. That is the relationship that has been established with this individual. That if I don't hold his head properly, his head can fall into the water and he can die. And that responsibility that was given to us from the moment that child was in our hands, that relationship was established with incredible that I need to take care of my child and save them from even death. And that if I don't do that, that what will happen? What will happen to my kid? If I don't correct him, if I don't instruct him, if I don't teach him from right and wrong, society will reject him. He will waste his life. Even simple things, if he doesn't know how to speak properly and he goes inside of an environment where they're looking at him and judging him, they will think, oh, who is this? This is not a properly raised child. We have our image and society and all of this, so many reasons why we have to instruct them properly. We have to make sure they do. So many things. And so even with our teenagers, we continue to give these instructions. And the relationship continues on from me giving instruction to you. And I even noticed this, as American as I may be, I'm still a mother and I'm very Indian and I still am working through all of these processes. How many instructions do you give in your child to your teenager every day? In the morning, what are the different instructions that are given? Make sure you wake up on time. Don't you know you're going to be late? I've made your lunch. Make sure you remember to take it. I have to leave. Perhaps you're leaving before your child. Make sure you take the key so you know how to lock up. How can you wear the same shirt that you wore yesterday? Why are you wasting all the hot water? There's no hot water left. Make sure you turn Gornita's light on to wake them up. Oh my goodness, if I don't remind you, you're going to forget. And then it continues on. Evening time, don't touch the table like that. Make sure you wash your dish after you eat. Why are you leaving the bowls on the couch instead of putting it back in the sink? Continue. Just day, all day, instruction. All night, instruction. Just like you do with your little ones, you continue doing that with your teenagers. And what ends up happening inside the teenager's heart as they're trying to build their own identity is they start becoming more and more like, oh, why can't she trust me? Why can't she accept me? Why can't she know that I will do it? I know how to do it. I'll figure out how to remember it. Why can't she trust me? Why am I continuing to be dealt with like I'm 5? I'm not 5. I'm older now. On my own. And so there are ways, tips, and tricks to deal with. Instead of saying the instructions as orders, just do it because I'm telling you to do it. And not just 5 or 6 or 7 orders, but long list of orders. I'm requesting you, the first thing you can do is identify how many orders am I giving to my kid, to my teenager, and to lessen up on those orders. When you lessen up on those orders, you establish inside of your older child's heart that he is capable and he is confident and he can do the regular tasks of what needs to be done. Instead of giving the orders, you forgot this, you didn't do this, why aren't you doing that? Do the opposite. And now this can be done at any age, for any age, and it works wonders for any age. But this is even more important as a child is building their identity in their adolescent years. Oh, I noticed that you took Gornita's water and placed it in the basil plant. I appreciate that you had done that. Usually we would have done it a different way. Idea to do. Oh, I noticed that without anybody even saying, you brought in all the groceries and put them away. You recognize your child for doing that one item, and you will see that that item will continue and grow and establish their identity. Every time you want to say, make sure, stop yourself and think, can I find something that they've already done that I can verbally recognize? I saw that you helped your brother with his homework today, and it actually helped him identify what he needed to get better at. That was really helpful because then I didn't have to do it. And those of us who come from communities where there's indirect communication, nonverbal communication, India is one of those countries where there's not so much nonverbal communication. I mean, there's so much verbal communication. There's more nonverbal communication. So saying these sentences to your children, recognizing your children for the things that they are doing, can can feel a little superficial at times. It can be a little difficult. But even if it's a day, and if your parents yourself always instructed you, then your tendency is that you are also always going to instruct your children. So you have to consciously become aware of it. My husband comes from an American background. His mother was from a very affluent family. His grandparents' house is right next to Bill Gates' house in Mercer Island. And his mother was like very American, into manners and etiquette classes. But the way that she raised him was so full of support and very little instruction when I moved into their home. I moved into their home as a young, like when I was in my early 20s, and we served in the Laguna Beach Temple together. I had moved there to help navigate the congregational development and the Sunday school in Laguna Beach, and I had just graduated from Gurukul, where I was teaching in Mother-in-law's Gurukul, and then had run her Gurukul for a few months. And so moving from an Indian home, a lot of different changes that I had to navigate and go through, and completely different cultures. And what your teenagers are doing right now is they're in a primarily American life outside in school, if you're not homeschooling them. And at home, they're in a completely different life inside with you. And outside at school, they're getting all kinds of recognition with their friends. They're building up their identity with their friends, with their teachers, with the things that they're being communicated very directly and verbally towards them. And inside at home, if they're getting the opposite, you need to do this, make sure you do that, you're not doing this properly, you're not doing that properly. If that's the only verbal communication that's coming out, then their identity will start becoming established more firmly with the outside world and perhaps the materialistic society and the materialistic benchmarks of what an identity should be. Instead, we need to work on building their identity in our homes, building their responsible identity, their own strength in who they are and the choices they make, and their spiritual identity. Instead of snide remarks of, oh, you never pick up your beads and chant, you never want to go to the temple, why aren't you going to go to the temple? Little things like that. Instead of, all of the make sure, long list of make sure, let's see how much we can take away. Not say all of those, and instead say the positive. I'm so lucky that Krishna has sent you. And I say this and I feel this regularly with my own two boys. I'm so fortunate and I'm so lucky Krishna has sent you to my house to help me with this. When we chant together as a family, and specifically when I'm chanting, and even if my boys just chant one round with me, I do feel their purity with me. I do feel that they're Vaishnava sent from above. Krishna has sent them to help me become a better devotee. And I communicate that to them. You were sent to help me become a better devotee. I just told my son a few days ago that I just can't wait until life is at the end and the flower airplane up. And I just hope that, like Dhruva Maharaj, he had turned to the Vishnuduta on the flower airplane and said, wait, I cannot go until my mother comes with me. And I hope that you, my dear Raju, will also remember me when Krishna takes you back. And you will say, wait, I cannot go back to Godhead until my mother comes with me. If we can communicate to them positive things that we notice materially and spiritually, build up their identity, start identifying what are they good at, and comment on them and speak to those instead of the long list of what they're bad at. So that's the communication to them. And the communication from them, when we're hearing their defiance and their pushing away and their automatic natural, like, no, I don't want to do what you're telling me to do. I have my own way of doing it. And sometimes it feels like they do it even without any reason, without any meaning, simple things. There was a time period with the older one, now he's moved that need, but where literally everything I said, he wanted to do the opposite. And every conversation we have regular readings of Bhagavatam, all four of us, my husband and I, and in the house, and anything I had said, not what my husband had said or my father had said or Nita had said, anything I had said as a reflection on the Srimad Bhagavatam, the older one had come with opposites. Oh, well, Mommy, that doesn't make sense because da-da-da-da-da. And it was like, it is almost like painful. Like, why is there so much opposition to me and to what I'm saying and to what I'm doing? Why everything I'm doing, you have to think opposite? And then when I studied the psychology from Piaget and so many neuroscientists right now, this is part of their identity building. They need to identify who they are. And because they're so close to mommy, and the more close they are with their parents, the more loving relationships they have and more intimacy they have with you, the more drastic the separation is going to be. Separation is an important part. And Srila Prabhupada and our scriptures tell us, Ayurveda parenting tells us, that you be strict and you give instruction from age 5 to 15. And at age 15, you become their friend. How am I going to be my kid's friend? It was the biggest challenge for me. How can I turn from looking and giving instructions and saying this long list of things and stepping back and trusting them and now becoming their friend? And so it's daily work, weekly work that of trust. You have raised them. You have given them years and years of instruction. They know who you are, and they know that they are the same way. But at this time in their life, they're trying to navigate what it means for them and how they're going to build all of that information that's been given to them for the past 12 years and make it their own identity. And because of this, every time they say something defiant, the natural response is to fight back. Now, I don't know how many of you parents get into arguments with your teenagers. That's been, that's usually considered one of the marked differences of childhood versus teenagers is an increase of arguments because now they're smarter, they're growing bigger, they get taller than you, and they think they know better than you, or at least they show that they know better than you. So instead of getting down in it and arguing with them, you stop and you listen. Stop and you listen. And I have a few minutes left, but this listening topic and how to listen and what words to say to listen and how to navigate these arguments and how to build your child's identity every single time that argument comes is so important. If you want to just even simply look up empathic communication, how to restate what they're feeling, how to identify what they're feeling, how to ask them what solution they want, how to then offer different types of solutions, and navigate the discussion in a completely different way. So when my husband kept reminding me, Gopi, you're just arguing with them, and every time you argue with them, you're shutting them down, and you're breaking the trust, and he keeps reminding this. In the back of my mind, I'm like, no, this isn't my culture. You may be American, and you may want to have a whole conversation and listening to them, but it's not my culture. In my world, kids just listen. They don't have arguments. They don't talk back. They don't think about ways to do it differently. But then when I studied the Shastra and I studied the way Srila Prabhupada managed conversations with parents, and I studied how even Bhaktivinoda Thakur at age 12 was in charge of a completely whole store. He took over his father's store, and how actually our predecessors, they did empower their children. And they did not get into arguments and random instructions, continuous instructions, which take away the trust and the confidence of a child. That actually the children were engaged in active, meaningful, purposeful work. And so there was no need for all of this argumentative defiance because they weren't being just stuffed down by tons of instruction. And so listening also has a whole set of instructions, and we're now at 10:45, so I'll have to pause here or end here. We have a few other topics that I wanted to cover, which I can maybe schedule another call, and those topics are how to deal with conflicts, how to deal with outside pressure of friends, how to navigate the hormones, and how to deal with empowering your child to find their own, what they're passionate about. And so those other topics we can cover at another another time. So I'm just going to end here with this importance of listening. My Pitaji sat at the table, the dining table. My Pitaji was the temple president of a temple, congregational director of other temples. He had 3 successful clinics. He was a dentist with, making a ton of money. He gave all that up for full Krishna consciousness. He was highly respected, widely respected in culture, and he had 2 young girls, 14 and 15. And he decided that he was going to take the time, no matter how busy he was, no matter how many calls he had, no matter how much he did for the outside society and world, he would sit at the dining table every single evening and ask us how our day was. And we would sit there and spend, as teenage girls, hours sometimes, talking to him about how one friend hurt the other friend's feelings, how this kid ended up talking about that other kid, how there is one boy who's charging us 10 cents per cup at the school, how there was a snake that we found at the school, everything good and bad and boring and interesting. And I remember coming back a week later to the same dining table and saying the same story that I had just said and trying to navigate how I was so upset that my friend did da-da-da-da-da, and my father just sitting there and listening. Very little instruction. Just hearing, knowing how to respond back. His mother, Montessori teacher of that era in India, and so he had learned these tips and tricks from Maria Montessori, who's really, really in tune with all of these stages and how to handle these stages, and my Pitaji had picked that up. And because of that, I developed so much trust in my father. And my sister, we developed so much trust. We wanted to be exactly like him. We wanted to go back to Godhead with him. We wanted to love Krishna with him. And just because of the hours he spent listening and helping us navigate all of our emotions and feelings. And so when your child is defiant and showing you no, I don't like what you're saying, I'm not going to do what you're saying, and we turn it as ego, our ego rises up, and how can they talk to us like this? They're so much bigger, and don't they know that this is so inappropriate that they're speaking to me like this, and I'm their mother, and how much sacrifice I've given them, and I know these feelings come in my mind myself. Delay your reaction. Process your own ego problems. Take a deep breath. Make yourself calm. Come back to it 2-3 hours later and understand, why is he upset about this? What's wrong, Beta? Please explain it to me. I'm here to listen. What were you feeling when I said that or when that thing happened? What were your thoughts? And understand their thoughts. Then verbalize their thoughts back to them. Oh, sounds like you felt really annoyed that I was just once again digging at you for something that isn't on your own. Oh, sounds like you're feeling for example, I don't like my children eating chips. And I see my kid going on Ekadashi and eating the Ekadashi potato chips that are fried that he already ate, and I don't want him eating them again at evening time because it's unhealthy. And automatically I just get on his case, and he gets so upset about it and storms off and rushes upstairs, and I want to follow him and yell at him some more. Instead, I delay myself. Okay, Beta, please talk to me. What were your feelings? What happened? And it's harder for boys. Boys don't like to discuss feelings, but they will tell you all their logical reasons for why that wasn't a good interaction. And listen, and then repeat to them, okay, so you didn't like that because you were thinking such and such and such. And take yourself out of the picture. As we have to take ourselves out of the picture and give sacrifice for so many years of their life, make it about your child and listen. And every time they're defiant is a time for you to build their identity. Every single time they're up on your case and arguing back with you, that's your time Krishna has given you. Build the identity. Make trust. Make a peaceful place where you're the self-assured adult and this is a child who's processing hormones or a teenage land, and be peaceful. Oh, I see you're really upset about this. What, something I said? Or, okay. Let's navigate this together. Let's work through this together. And that moves into the next topic of conflict, which I can give you at another time. So we'll just do a quick recap. Your adolescent struggles are normal and natural. Your child has been brought to you by Krishna, and this teenage life is when all of the negatives for why they had to take another birth in your womb and in your family are coming up. And they are Vaishnavas. Even if they don't seem to be acting like Vaishnavas, intrinsically they are because they have been brought into your home as a practicing Vaishnava. This is all normal and natural. Navigate it peacefully. Make sure that you give them a chance to solidify their identity by not continuously hammering them down with tons and tons of instructions that they already know. And secondly, by listening. Every defiance and a little bit of an upset, it means their upset is coming because they don't have that identity strong in their hearts. Because they feel like they're being cut down. They feel like they're being instructed in order to become their friend. You don't give your friend instructions. You don't. You sit with your friend and you understand where they're coming from. In order to turn them into that, we must sit with them and understand what they're coming from, where they're coming from, and then speak back to them. Okay, sounds like you were feeling, and take yourself out of the picture. And if you can't do that because you still feel like, no, they have to understand my point of view, and why is there even any discussion on this? They have to listen. Then take a deep breath and don't address it at that point. Address it later. All right, so at this point, are there any questions? I hope all of this was helpful. And are there any questions?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Hi.
Beautiful, beautiful session. Very practical. I'll unmute everyone, and whoever wants to ask questions can go ahead now. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Sorry, it was a beautiful session. I have a question, Mataji.
Yes,
apologize. Yeah, Mataji. Yeah, please allow me. I mean, sorry, I'm searching for words. So basically, yeah, I like your lecture. So my question now is, see, every parent has their own inhibitions, right? So I know you mentioned about the procedures to be followed. So overcoming the inhibitions, our personal inhibitions, and following a different set of rules which you just mentioned. So how would that fit in? So overcome in our own inhibitions itself is a personal problem for us, right? So how would we be more working hard to practice these new rules, ignoring or keeping aside our inhibitions? Because I might have my own way, the way I grew up, and I have my personal way of thinking, and it's coming in. It's coming in the way of following the rules you just mentioned. So sometimes it's clashing. I cannot follow the rules which you just mentioned. So that's what is happening. So how do I overcome this?
So the rules I mentioned, basically in the sense of not giving the two rules I mentioned was not giving continuous instruction to the child, and also allowing them the space to express themselves and hearing them. You're talking specifically about those two rules?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, yeah.
All right, Hare Krishna, thank you for your question. So those of us who, this is a foreign concept too, and even for all parents, it's a foreign concept, because not even those of us who were raised in an Indian family or Asian background, all parents, it's a foreign concept too, because for how many years that's all we do is our job is to give instructions. And so the only way to do that is try it once first. Try it. Next time your child comes to you defiantly, don't fight back. Just stop yourself. Plan it. Plan for it. Plan that your child will come to you defiantly. I don't like this. I don't like that. It's never about the issue at hand. The problem that the child is bringing up is never about the particular issue right at hand. It's about something deeper that's going on within that child. And that's why the problem is coming up. And so just try and listen. Oh, I see that you're feeling really upset. You really don't want to do that. Just try saying that one type of sentence from their perspective. Oh, what I'm hearing is that you didn't like the way that happened. And then see what happens. Suddenly you'll see that their armor and their weapons and their shield lower a little bit. And they may continue. Yeah, because and this reason and that reason. And then again, oh, so because and just verbalize and take yourself out of the equation. So you can't change yourself 100%. You're not going to be able to change yourself completely. Try once. And as you keep trying it that one time during that process, note the difference in how the conversation ends. When the conversation ends, Your child will be sitting closer to you. Your child will be more open to you. After that conversation, your child will be more trusting to you. Your child will wander into your room looking for you. And what the bigger issue of that, how to deal with these conflicts is, when there's a real serious problem that your kid is facing at school right now, our kids who are raised in these environments will not come to us with serious problems. They're scared of us. They don't trust us. They need to be able to trust us in the small arguments so that when the big thing comes, oh, my best friend's pregnant. When those big things come, which will come with your kids living in a life in America and in American public school, these big ticket items will come. I was in American public school. I know what was there. I was only comfortable to go to my father for them because I had built trust. I was not comfortable to go to my mother for them. And so you want to be able to build the trust in small things so that when the big ticket items come, your child sees you as a place to go to talk to about it. Someone who's not going to get upset at them. Well, why are you even hanging out with that type of a girl? How much kind of a nonsense she is? I can't even believe, you want to build the trust from now. So just try it once. That's all I ask. And you try it once in a month. Then you try, okay, and then you remember this. Put this on your refrigerator. I actually have a reminder on my phone for the biggest struggle that I have with my older son. And I have a reminder on my phone that comes every single day. Don't berate him for the struggle. And literally the reminder on my phone is to help me remember that in those moments, if I just want to instruct him and criticize him, I'm not going to. So try it once. Then you'll see how it affects your relationship. Then do it again. Gradually. And when you start seeing the positive results from it, emotionally, internally, you will automatically start realizing that it's a better way to handle it, a better way to go through it, because you'll start seeing the positive effects. I just had this experience this past week, and my kids don't like me talking about them so much, so I'm going to try and keep it real general. But my child had something happening in one of her devices that very much upset me, and they got, I got upset, they got upset, and he ran away into the other room like, oh, you're going to get on my case and you're going to take it away. And he's 15. And I went to my husband immediately, please help me calm down because I'm about to lay it into him really thickly and take everything, all the computers away. And my husband said, calm down and do what you have written about because I'm working on a book, and go through that process of all the instruction that you give to the parents. And so I did. I sat there and I thought, okay, I need to calm down. I need to address this properly and hear from him first. And I did. I was able to put my own issues aside and my own fears and judgments and sit and listen to him. And it wasn't easy, and I just sat and listened. Okay, let me hear from your perspective. What were you thinking when you did that, and why, and did it, and okay. And we navigated through it together, and then I was also able to share my own perspective. I'm not saying that we give up our strict Indian background or Vedic background. It is also important that we continue. Well, from the Vedic perspective, that we come from, this is the way we look at it. So how do you put both together, Bita? You tell me. You have this type of scenario that you need to work on, and then you have who we are and, your identity as a Vaishnava. How can we work those two out together? This whole topic will come in my talk about how to navigate conflict. And the next day, we do PSAT prep. And if you notice, when your kids get older, they no longer climb on your lap and cuddle with you and kiss you. They want separation. Physical separation is important. The next day, which was yesterday, we had PSAT prep, and I was sitting on the couch. And my son, who I had just done that with the previous day, we had a long day at school. He went to college and came back and sat super close to me and opened up his laptop, and we were doing PSAT prep together, and he put his head on my shoulder. And I thought, wow, this is because of how I navigated yesterday. He saw me as his mommy, and he saw that he could trust me, and now look how close he's being to me. And it was immediately Krishna showing me that you're doing it the right way. So I'm asking that even though you have your own personal inhibitions, try it once, then try it twice, and put a reminder in your phone. And just naturally, the reaction that you get will give you the strength to do it again. Is that okay?
Hare Krishna, Mother. Yeah, thank you very much, Mataji. So the outcome is, what takeaway for me is I should be trying this no matter what I grew up with. So that's what you're saying, right? So try these steps and then see the
You try it and you see the response will be of more trust. And when you see that more trust, it'll give you the strength to do it again.
Okay. All right. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, this is Padma. Thank you so much for the lecture, Mataji. It was so beautiful. I have a struggle, Mataji, with my son who is 13 and a half. He is a good boy and good in academics and everything. The thing is, whatever I say, just doesn't want to listen. I think he has this impression on me that he used to go to public school and I put in private school. So he thinks that he did not want to go to private school. I put, so whatever decision you take, that is not the right decision. You made a wrong choice for me. That's why I don't want to listen. And he internalizes, and then weekend comes. He knows he has some test he has to go to. He doesn't prepare. I am scared, I don't want to go to, and he passes his time playing some games. So my point is not about the education, but that doing that is not good. But when I try to remind him, oh, you are nagging me. Just if you go play outside, not on the phone, he says, wait 2 minutes. 2 minutes. And the 2 minutes never ends. But if I leave him, he will not have lunch, he will not have breakfast, he will be playing until he's tired, his eyes are tired, and then comes back. And the night, he cuddles, and he says, Mommy, I'm being a bad boy. Tomorrow, take the device away and hide it, Mommy. I don't want to touch it. I wish.
Oh, beautiful boy. Oh.
And then, next day morning, he wakes up at 11 o'clock because he played until 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock. He's feeling bad and he's feeling guilty himself. And then, next day morning, wake up. First thing he does is, I tell to him, I don't hide it, Chetan, because you have to be responsible. It's up to you. But if I hide, you will ask me back again, and then if you don't give, you'll get mad. It's better that you have a discipline. Okay, this much time to this time I'll play, and this much I will not. Again, he'll be on the computer, he'll be doing one thing. Then I'll just remind him, you told me to hide, you don't want to play, you want me to help you. Okay, Mommy, I told you. That's okay, I'll just come off. But it will never. So he does whole weekend, and then he has homework, right? He won't start until like evening 7 or 9. He'll be working until 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock until he finishes. He won't sleep because he has to finish his homework. And I'm having, and then morning, 7:30 bus, we have to go. He cannot wake up because he hasn't slept properly. He might have 3-4 hours sleep. And he doesn't eat breakfast because I said, I don't have time to eat breakfast. How do I help him? He's not a bad boy. He wants to do good. But the thing is, he doesn't have a control on himself. But when I say, he was telling me, you are not being, as you said, right, he's just trying to establish his identity. But at the same time, he said yesterday to me and my husband, we were both asking him, you're wasting the precious time, Chetan. Then if the opportunity is gone, it will never come back. You make your own decisions, but make good choices. He's saying, Daddy, you are trying to, I want to be independent, but you are trying to walk behind me. I don't like it. But when we leave them, because he doesn't like when we leave them, he just, whole weekend it goes like that. And then he repents about it, that he's unable to control and he feels bad about himself and guilt. And then he does it again.
Yes. So Padma Mataji, this was the most beautiful interaction that you have shared with me. The first thing I'm hearing is that you're very aware and in tune with your child's needs and a very high level of trust. That many kids may not even have this much level of trust with their parents. And the fact that you're allowing him to navigate this on his own, first, I want to applaud you for that. That's excellent. Secondly, that he was able to communicate with you that, oh my God, I did something I really prefer not to have done. That he had that confidence and trust to be able to come to both of you and say that. That also shows a very good foundation that you have built with your son who's 13. So in order to go, get past this back and forth, on one side we go from too much leniency to the other side, which is too much control. And so that's the question that you're asking is that when there's too much leniency, then he makes choices that are poor, that could potentially harm him as far as like his ability to focus in school. And the opposite is too much trust. So what I would do with him is the first thing I would do is I would say, I really, really appreciate that you're recognizing that you did something you wouldn't want to do. Like that you're actually intrinsically in your heart really a responsible person. That shows me that you really do know what your priorities are. And you know what? All of us make mistakes at times. There was a time when I was extremely tired, or I was just over it. I had a bad week, and I just watched Hindi movies for 2 days straight. I don't know if there was ever any time for that. But you can give some example of some time that you just watched TV or did something that maybe you shouldn't have done. Trust. This is the time where we can start leaning on them like friends, sharing a little bit of what we've worked through and how we had to control our time management. Not so that he is going from the guilt to we don't want to create that. First of all, we don't want to create the video games are bad. All of us hate video games. The generation that we're having to raise right now, we're all completely against it because we had a completely different childhood. We ran outside and played in quiet trees and built forts and hung out with our friends and played role-play games, houses, whatever not. We didn't have video games. So our poor children who are surrounded by video games all around them are immediately where their parents hate the thing that they love to do. So that in and of itself first needs to be removed. And the way we removed this in this house, and I struggled with this very much, because as a teenager, not only did I not play video games, but we were reading Srimad Bhagavatam in Gurukul. And so it was like night and day. So how we navigated the video games conversation with my husband's a very IT person. He's a computer software engineer, and he's more comfortable with computers and screens and this and that. We sat and we played the video games with the kids and identified which video games are good and which video games are not good for our consciousness. And then came upon 2 video games that we are okay with them playing, and the other ones we're all going to reject as a family because they're not in hand with our values. But we did it together. I sat with him, and I had no interest whatsoever in this video game. As a matter of fact, I'm completely against video games. I still am. But for the sake of my child, I sat with them, both of them, and asked them questions, and this is the strategy, and this is the world, and these are the characters. Wow, and really tried to take time to understand why they're attached to the video game so that they're not thinking that my choice of playing a video game is a bad thing. As soon as you take away negative association with it, they'll want to do it less. Because it's something bad, the interest is more. Oh, I'm going to do it more and more and more. And then, of course, we know video games in and of themselves are addicting. And so you can even ask him, why do you think it's bad? Really? Are you sure it's bad? I don't think it's that bad. I mean, all you're doing is playing. It's not like you're hurting somebody or taking drugs or going to the mall with boys and girls. You're actually just sitting in a room on a screen. So why do you think it's bad? He has already this impression that there's something wrong with it. Let him identify on his own why there's something wrong with it. So a few different things. Let me see if I can make this into just simple points that you can implement immediately. So the first point is to identify that to communicate to him verbally that you really make good choices in your life. He's thinking he makes bad choices. He's hearing from you that he makes bad choices. I need you to tell him that you made really good choice. Because after you played for 2 days, you realized on your own that you didn't want to do that. That shows me that you have a very responsible heart and a very responsible mind, and you know precisely what you want to do in your life. You make good choices. Number 1. And now for the whole rest of the week, 2 weeks, any choice he makes that you see as a good choice, you comment on that. That was a good choice. That also was a good choice. I think I would struggle with that, Beta. I might not have been able to do that, but look at how you did that. I'm impressed with that. Increase his identity as one who makes good choices. And if he's already verbally told you he doesn't want to play 2 days full of video games, don't have that be what he does. Okay? Secondly, instead of asking our kids to randomly go out and play, which realistically a 13-year-old kid is not going to do on their own, make it a family trip. We take our boys every week to a bike ride or to the lake where we go as a family. We don't just say, both of you go out and play like they're 5 and they can just figure out how to play in the street. No, or we get other kids to come and do something. They're going to cook together. They're going to make a meal for everyone together. They're going to do cut up together at the temple. They're going to sit in bhajans. Every time together, they'll sit with their friends in bhajans. We're going to go to this program together, and they're going to do something practical there. That's the way that we're going to get our kids off of video games, is by having practical family time together, not just, go find something else to do. We're going to make, we have devotees coming over. We're making curd ball sabji. I've taught them how to cook. So when devotees come over, both the boys take responsibilities how to cook. They've been cooking since they were young. That they like doing. Nitai is really into drones. He's built his own drone. He flies it up. He does drone competition races. So he himself identifies, I don't want to spend so much time on my video game because I've got to do this drone and prepare for this particular part of it is messing up. Raju has his own other things for makerspace that he builds. Invest time in doing things that they're interested in, that they're attracted in, that are not video games. Take him to a pottery class, take him to a horseback riding class, take him to an art class, sit at home. During the summertime, I brought canvases and I said, we're going to do art. We're all doing it together. Luckily, I don't work on summertime. I'm off school. And so I sat and we did painting together. And in that process, Raju loved it, Nitai hated it. So, okay, this is something you don't like to do, no problem. But now in his free time, instead of just not the video games, Raso Ham Apsu Kaunteya, what is that? No. Raso Varjam Raso Pyasya. Give them a higher taste. Instead of neti, instead of a don't, give them a do. And when you give them a do, show your own enjoyment in it. Let's all go drive in the car and go get ice cream and head out to the lake and do some japa and some games there. Let's play Monopoly. And sorry, as a family, that's something we do. We try to do one game night every week. It doesn't always happen because schedules are busy, where we're all playing Monopoly together. We're all playing different card games together. We're all hanging out together. Have fun, happy things so that the video games aren't so enticing. Kids who are in video games are kids who are bored. And kids who are bored have parents who are too busy to do practical, active, fun things with them. Make a campfire outside. Bring their friends outside. Build a fort. I mean, there's so much to do. The list is really long. If you just type in on Google, 100 or activities to do with your kid outside, and there'll be so many. Go for a hike, go for a walk, go for a bike ride, go swimming, go to the beach. There's just tons. I hope that is helpful. And then continue to remind your child that he makes good choices. This boy that you have is a gem, let me tell you. Many 13-year-old boys wouldn't be able to do that. He is a gem. And I can hear just from you that you're already doing an amazing job with him. And you're already navigating this excellently. So thank you so much for sharing. Are there any other questions?
Appreciate, Mata. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Sita Priti Mataji, you can go ahead with your question that you have typed out.
Hi, Krishna Mataji. Dandat Param Mataji. Thank you so much for this wonderful class. Thank you, Anjana Gupika Mataji, for arranging it. So, Mataji, when we are setting up rules, what is the right way to do it? Like, should we be discussing the rules which we have been setting, or it is just like, okay, these are the rules of the family, or these are the rules, like suppose when you go into the temple, like these are the rules which we are doing. They also have their own arguments over it. They also have their own views over it, which also seem very correct and understandable. But then you do not want them to go take any undue advantage, so you set up some rules. So then what is that exact way to do it? Should they be get into confidence and make it along with them, or you just make the rules which you feel are going to be right for them?
That's such a good question, Sita Priti Mataji. Hare Krishna. That's a really good question. I have a list of rules that are absolute, just in stone rules, that there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is my rule, and that's that. And then you have the list of rules which are negotiable that you're okay with. Like for me, when you go to the temple, you wear tilak no matter what. You go and you wear tilak, and we're not going to ask any questions. It's not a problem because the boys love wearing tilak. But when I was a teenager, I didn't like wearing tilak. I was at public school, and I had kids that were coming to the temple, and I didn't want them to see that I was wearing tilak. And so I made a big argument with my mom about wearing tilak. And so for her, it was like, you know what? This is just a non-negotiable. You wear tilak when you go to the temple. For me, it's the same. Simple things. Those are my baseline rules. Now, the negotiable rules, those are ones that even you can make up a few negotiable rules and give your child the control to fix that rule. Then your child feels that feeling, the more important than any of these rules is the feeling of trust and confidence that's being built between the relationship of parent and teenager. And so your teen wants to see from you and needs to and must see from you that you trust his judgment, that you trust his decisions, because then he can trust himself. And so if you have a negotiable rule in your mind, like, okay, you can wear a dhoti or you can wear pants. What do you think? What do you feel like we should wear? What's the reason why we wear these when we go to the temple? Or, oh, when we go to the store, I don't know, other rules. I'm trying to think of some other practical rules. Oh, you can eat dinner before homework or after homework. What do you think? When would you like to do your homework? Or there may even be other scenarios that can be negotiable that the child can discuss with you. You know, I'd rather do it this time. Video games. You can decide if you want to play 2 hours today, or you only want to play 1 hour today and 1 hour tomorrow. Give them choices, and they can negotiate those rules. Your specific rule you're asking about is cell phones at the temple. So that, I think, that particular one, you have to think in your heart where you stand as a family. Each family is going to have different feelings towards it. Your purpose, to identify your purpose behind why you don't want your kid to have a cell phone. You don't want that they're in the place of worship and that they're sitting playing a game on their phone, right? That's the reason why you don't want them to have cell phones?
Yes, Mataji, like it becomes okay just talking over phone on with friends. Maybe not to game also, but just talking to friends. That's the main thing which bothers.
So if you're sitting, boys are very sweet boys, and if you're sitting with your boys and you explain this to them, you talk to them, you don't even explain it, you ask it as a question. Now that's another thing we can do as parents to teenagers is ask questions. Don't give the answers, just ask questions. Why do you think Mummy doesn't want you to have the cell phone at the temple? And then see what their answers come. Wow. If they say, oh, because you just want to be mean. Oh, ha, ha, ha. Yeah, that's funny. Make it a dialogue with them. If they say, oh, because you don't want us to, maybe they don't even know why you don't want their phone. Maybe they know because you don't want us to play video games on it. Wow, you really know that about me? That's true, because I don't want you to play video games about it. So what do you think we can do from here on? Now that you know that Mummy doesn't want you to be playing video games while we're at the temple, what do you think we can do to solve this so that both of us are navigating this? You're happy and I'm happy. Well, Mommy, I don't have to play video games at the temple. I don't need to have my phone. I can just, maybe I just needed to contact you. Okay, so you're only going to use it to play video games? Like if you have a cake in front of you and you eat it, and someone says don't eat it, won't that be harder? Wouldn't it be harder if you had the video game? If you had the phone not there with you to forget, otherwise you'll forget and you'll just go play the games absentmindedly. Do you think that might be an issue? Like, I'm just here to help you come to the solution of, oh, maybe we shouldn't play video games at the temple. And that kind of an open dialogue where it's not an instructive dialogue, but it's hearing more from the child and allowing the child to come to the conclusion of what needs to be concluded. If your child is telling you, no, Mommy, I can only keep the phone to contact you. I need my phone to be able to contact you. Okay, that's a really good reason that I need to contact you. You need to contact me. That's true, because things happen in this world all the time. So, but the worry is that I have, because I'm the same way, is that what if you forget and you end up doing something else like, playing video games or Snapchat with your friends or whatever? How do we navigate that when that comes up? And then let the child say, well, I could come up with this solution or that solution. Maybe if you find that I'm doing that, you could take the phone away from me. Maybe you can decide, let the child come up with a scenario. And so even though you're still having this be a non-negotiable rule. This is not negotiation. This is allowing the child to understand the reasonings behind and explain to you the reasonings behind the phone not having video games there. Like he's explaining to you through your questions the process of getting solid in this non-negotiable rule. My non-negotiable rule is that I do not want you texting your friends or playing video games on your phone. And, you can explore the reasons why, because we're with Krishna, we're with our friends, we're with people. We don't want to be antisocial. We want healthy social development. We don't want people to think that we're addicted to our phones, even if we all may be addicted, at least in public. Let's show that we're not addicted. You can make it funny, you can joke. And then you can ask them to come with the reasons. Why would we not do that? And then ask them to come up with a scenario of how to avoid that if you have your phone. And then ask them to come up with a natural consequence. What would we do? So if by mistake you decided to end up chatting and we're making this agreement, write it out on paper. We're making this agreement, put it up on the door, actually write it out. We're making this agreement. What do you think we can do if the agreement is broken? Then have them come and discuss. Oh, well, maybe you'll just take my phone away at that time. Maybe this. They can come up with reasons. It's still the non-negotiable rule stays strong. But you're giving the child the chance to discuss it. And this is forming the basis, Mataji, for a full adulthood where they can make choices. They can establish consequences. They can moderate their own behavior and know when they mess up that they can recuperate again. Now you go to the temple, you've agreed, and you saw them both in the corner behind the stage playing on their phones. And it just broke your heart, and your Indian strong, decided this is the wrong way. Gopi Gita Mataji was wrong. I shouldn't have done it this way. I should have just taken their phone away. And you get so upset. Why did they break the agreement that we had come? Still they're on their phones. And you have to take a deep breath again and come back to the table and say, hey, so we had a little bit of an issue here. You know why I'm talking to you, right? Yeah, I broke it, blah, blah, blah. So how do you want to deal with that? How should we deal with that? Because it's breaking my trust in you. We had an agreement, and my trust is being broken. But I trusted you that you would have the phone, so how can we fix it? Let them come up with the fix. I'm not leaving the table until this is fixed, and until you bring the fix. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You tell me how we're going to navigate this, because this is a you don't have to say non-negotiable. You just say, this is the family standard that we have that we uphold to. Is that okay? Does that help?
Yes, Mataji, a lot. I'm just thinking of ways how to implement it now. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. The more we're able to bring our teenagers into the discussion and empower them with making the right choices, the more trust will be built, and the more they will become conscious and Krishna conscious to make others do the right choices also. We have a very high bar for our kids. It's not just that we want our kids to follow the rules. We want our kids to know the feeling behind why these rules are there, and so much so that they're able to explain and empower others to do them. The only way we're going to get there is if we empower them now to follow these rules and trust them now to make these decisions, day-to-day decisions on their own, and ask them questions and trust that they will do the right thing. Even if they fail, we trust that they will do the right. That's okay that you failed on it. It's okay. I fail all the time. Next time will be easier. Tell me how you're going to make it easier next time. Positive, always positive terminology. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, very class, very inspiring. Mataji, I have a question. Sometimes it's very difficult to find their identification. Means maybe we have so much of that kind of nature, hammer, or do this. Means how we can realize their identification, and also sometimes we are very lenient. Means we are not care what they are doing, or sometimes we are very much strict. How can we overcome that situation, Mataji?
Yes, and this is really hard for mothers more than fathers, because we care so much about them becoming the right quality people that we end up giving so much emotional intensity with our instructions that it in a way more and more and more. And so the best advice I can give you, the only thing I can say, Mataji, is that you can work to speak qualities that you notice and appreciate in your child. You start with that. Notice and appreciate qualities in your child. That will start building the positive relationship with you and your child. And it's hard for us to do that if we're so seeped in the way we were raised in India, and everything we see in our kids now are totally opposite. We end up hating our own kids without even realizing it. We end up rejecting our own children without even realizing it. We see that our children are so far from the way I was when I was a little girl. And it scares us, and we turn them into these negative things that we don't even know what to do with. And they feel that from us. They feel it. And we put our own judgments and our own fears from our childhood and from the way we were raised onto them. And why would they ever want to hang out with us or spend what we're saying, or why would they think the way we are is somebody that they would want to be? Because they're getting so much continuous rejection from our continuous instructions and berating and snide remarks. Oh, yeah, I don't know if she's going to be good or not in that. Yeah, I don't know, because we don't have confidence in them. How are they going to have confidence in themselves? And so we have to build our own confidence in them and then build their confidence in them. So that's the first thing I can say, is by saying positive things to them, like simple things, like, I love how your heart is so kind, Pita. I noticed that when I was upset about that, you came automatically and bring me some water. I really appreciate your heart is so kind. And sometimes we think they should already know this. Why should we say it out loud? They already know that we love them. Why do we have to say it? They're in a culture where everything is being spoken verbally to them. In the outside world, everything is being spoken verbally. So speak it verbally to them. It will surprise them. It's so good. It will make them like, oh, my mom sees me. My mom notices me. And never, ever, ever speak anything negative about them to your husband or to another relative, ever. That is just a complete no-no for children of all ages. Never speak anything negative about them. I think many of you must already follow this. There, I went to some environment trying to be a little general, and the child came in and was misbehaving, and in front of everybody, the mother is complaining, oh my God, I can't control this child, this and that and the other. Never speak negatively. Even a 1-year-old, a 5-year-old, they can hear that you're saying, you're building their negative identity. And so, Are, you know what she did today? She came home, and the husband comes home, and we start complaining, about the kid in front of the kid. You're building their negative identity. My mom thinks of this. This is what I am. This is what she thinks of. I'm already insecure in the whole world because I'm turning into a teenager and my identity is in crises. I'm supposed to be one person at home and one person, all extremely chaotic. And on top of it, my mom rejects me. Even simple things they'll take as rejection. Why are you doing that when I didn't tell you to do that? The way this boy who's playing the computer games, I'm such a bad kid.
I think Mataji dropped her call. Mataji, she's not there. Okay, I'll send the message. Maybe Mataji's phone is the battery finished or something happened. I don't know. Should we wait sometimes? It will ask you, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, I think Mataji's phone battery low down or something. I send the message.
Okay.
You can wait for some time. Mataji will come back maybe.
Okay. So Mataji, do you want to try connecting her?
I think, yeah, I'll call Mataji. I sent the message, the WhatsApp message didn't go. I thought battery went down. I'll call one time to Mataji.
Yeah.
Now, if you're done playing, take a look.
Yeah, I think Mataji's phone went directly in voicemail. Yeah.
Okay. Then what should we do? Should we wait or?
Maybe 5 minutes we can wait, and then otherwise after that we can end the call, Mataji. If some devotee has any question or comment for Mataji, if you have any question or comment, we can wait for some time. Otherwise also we can end the call also. I don't know.
So if anyone is not able to wait and has a question, please type out the question on the parenting group, because Mataji is there on the parenting group to answer your questions. So please do take the opportunity to type it out there.
Also we are thinking to do, Mataji didn't finish the whole session today.
Yeah.
We can
Yeah, we will schedule that again. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Has eat. How can I make him boil?
At least wait, Mataji, for 2-3 minutes. Maybe if Mataji's phone went, battery is
Yeah, sure.
Mataji will come back.
Yeah.
And then Mataji is joining back. Yeah, Mataji is coming. We can wait.
Okay.
Yes, Mataji, yes. Please go ahead, Mataji. You are still talking in the previous
I'm so sorry, everybody. My phone died. Please forgive me. So I don't remember what point I got dropped off.
Forgot, Mataji.
Just I think I was making the simple point of the two types of communication. The one that is going towards the teenager is to build their identity in every little thing. Thank you for putting the dishes away. I like how you keep them really clean. And to try and even write these down if it's difficult to remember them in the moment. We just think that a lot of good behaviors are expected. The thing is that the children need at this age to become acknowledged for their goodness, because they are dealing with a lot of negativity in their own hearts, in their own minds, and a lot of insecurity. And so in order to build their security, just to comment on their positives. And that'll make them see like, oh, mommy sees me. My daddy understands who I am. He knows who I am. Little things. Nikitaji always used to give us little things of recognition, not to make us proud, but he would just, like, he would never say, wow, you're amazing. But he would just say little recognition, like, I really like that harmonium tune that you played, Bida. Like, your voice was really good. And he even felt us that our voice was so good that he sat and did a whole recording session with us and made a tape that we handed out to all of our relatives in India. Like, they're so good at singing that let them, and we weren't. We were just regular kids. It's not like at that time we had amazing musical ability. We were just 12 and 13, but it empowered my sister Gora so much that now she's sharing Kirtan with the whole world, the whole of India. And so like that, just little recognitions you can say can go a really long way to establishing their faith in you. And instead we end up saying the opposite. You're no good at this. You don't do this. Why don't you do that? That's the first thing, is just to answer that question that had just come previously, how to build that trust. You build it by giving them positive recognition of what specific little things they're good at. I like how you hung your clothes. I like that you take responsibility for your laundry. I like that you're so focused in your studies. Look at the grades that you're getting. Oh, they come back and they're so upset about a low grade. Wow, you're even noticing that it's every time. Bhavagrahi Janardana. Krishna is so good at doing this. No matter what quality, even if we have the worst qualities, he's able to find the good in it. Even if they think there's something bad, you find the good. Say the good thing. No, but Beta, you did this. Be proud of yourself that you were able to do this. That's the first thing. Second thing is when there's a fight or a conflict, defiance, that's a time for you to work through their own personal negativity. What's wrong? Why are you arguing with me on this? What are you feeling? What are your feelings? Instead, we bring in our, how dare they talk to us? So those are just the two things that I can say to build that trust. There's so many others to focus on those two. Try them. We can have a follow-up call, and we can see how everybody's doing and if this is working or not. Are there other questions? I will have to probably end the call at 11:45. So I have about 7 minutes left. Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna. Anybody has any question for Mataji? Yes, Mataji, maybe we may end the call. We can end the call. Mataji, we also want to give the next session. Hare Krishna is yeah.
Haribol.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mataji. We are looking forward to the session as well.
Thank you. No problem. Yes,
if no one else has any questions or comments, we can end the call. All right. Thank you so much. Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vranda ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Her Grace Gopi Gita Mataji ki Jai. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji, for the beautiful tips.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.